happened here. Stories that will keep you awake. Unbelievable experiences that you can relate to Dr. Robert Geller. But can spirits really know the future? Can a doctor fight for his own sanity while trying to save his patients? That ghost nurse in the cafeteria, that vengeful man at the emergency room door, and those chilling whispers in the morgue. Dr. Geller's life is entwined with the hospital's dark secrets. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on those shocking events and dive into 3 terrifying true stories of Dr. Geller. Are you ready? Because you won't be able to sleep tonight. Here we go. Story 1. The woman in the hospital cafeteria. You remember what happened to me in the operating room in my previous story, right? Nobody believed me, but if it hadn't been for that incident that blew the minds of the whole team, everyone would have thought I was crazy. Because strangely, it seemed inconceivable that all the strange things that happened in the hospital only happened to me, Dr. Robert Geller. But fortunately, there was someone who believed in me in this mysterious hospital. Do you remember that mystical scene in the operating room after the lights suddenly went out? At the very center of the operation, all the lights went out. The wavelengths of the blue and green lines on the monitor changed, and an incredible fear filled the room. The spirit, if not the body, of the old nurse who had been in the hospital before had appeared in the dark corner and asked for my help. Now that nurse caught me in another part of the hospital. This time, the same person was in the hospital cafeteria, but this time, I was alone. It was around 7:13 in the evening. All the intensity of the day was on me. Earlier in the morning, my wife had come to the hospital where I worked feeling unwell. I took her to my friend Dr. David, and he said that she was probably touched by some things she had eaten the night before. Then I operated on Emma, a 23-year-old girl who was seriously injured in a car accident on her motorcycle. It was a very difficult operation. Her internal organs were badly damaged, but we saved her. She was lucky. First, I had to stop by my room on the ground floor because I had left my cigarettes in my room. I grabbed my cigarette pack and lighter from the drawer under my computer desk and started walking towards the cafeteria. A good Americano could completely revive me. I was on night duty that night. When I entered the cafeteria on the middle floor of the hospital, I couldn't see anyone there. Annabelle, who was working in the cafeteria, was probably taking advantage of the absence of anyone to boil the business. It was up to me. I went to the kitchen to make my own coffee. I took my red mug on the top left shelf and started to prepare. Just then I felt a breath on the back of my neck. At first, I thought Annabelle wanted to scare me and was slowly approaching me from behind. When I turned around, no one was there. I turned around to start making coffee again, but behind me, I felt that high-pitched voice in my ears in a tone that only I could hear. "Save me, Dr. Geller." I quickly and fearfully turned around again. I stared at the corner of the wall connecting the cafeteria and the exit corridor. My team was gone, but I wished Annabelle was here. I could feel the cold sweat on my forehead again. What did this nurse want from me? How could I help her? I was waiting for her to appear and talk to me. I couldn't take it anymore. I thought maybe this would be the end of it, but I don't know if I was ready for that. Suddenly I saw that the camera facing the corner I was looking at was turned off. The red light on the security camera suddenly went out. I think the nurse just wanted to show herself to me. The fluorescent lights started going on and off again. I had nowhere to run anymore. The exit door from the cafeteria was right behind that corner. I had to go around that corner to get out, but I felt like my hands and feet were locked. I couldn't move. It was time. My heart was beating like a drum and sweat was pouring down the sides of my eyes. I wondered if spirits could be seen, and I had a strange feeling of wanting to know what this nurse would want from me. I wondered if spirits could be seen, and I had a strange feeling of wanting to know what this nurse would want from me. The lights went out completely. I was called from the wall in the corner. "Dr. Geller, my daughter's life is in your hands. Don't leave her alone." "Who are you? Why did you choose me, and who is that girl?" I asked. At that moment, I sensed a figure in black in the darkness. He was looking towards me. He repeated, "The girl you operated on today. The surgery had gone well, and the girl was doing well. We were going to keep her in intensive care for a day as a checkup, and then we were going to take care of her in the patient care room. Everything was going as it should. When I looked carefully at the voice calling me from around the corner, I realized it was the same nurse I had seen in the operating room. Her voice and the way she looked at me were the same. "We did everything we could, and everything seems fine," I said in a trembling voice. Suddenly, he called out to me with a breeze in my left ear, "No, you're lying. If anything happens to my daughter, I will never let you go." But why did she say that to me? I had only been out of surgery for 3 hours, and there had been no complications. I was getting ready to give a new answer when suddenly the lights came back on and the mood changed. Someone was running into the cafeteria. "Dr. Geller, Dr. Geller." It was Annabelle's voice. Before she could answer, she could only say one word, looking fearfully and anxiously into my eyes. "Emma." Now I knew something was wrong, and why that spirit was visiting me. Emma had an unexpected complication. I had to save her. Otherwise, I would be deeply saddened by the loss of a young girl's life, and that spirit would never leave me. Do you think this spirit could know the future? How could it have known that Emma's condition would worsen? Emma, who started bleeding internally, was given emergency treatment until I arrived. I had to quickly take her back to the operating room. After the second surgery, which lasted 3.5 hours, everything seemed fine. The nurses came in again to take Emma back to her room. When I looked up and looked at the clock, it was 11:30 at night. I don't know how this vigil was going to last until the morning. It was not certain that the spirit that came to me in the cafeteria would not bother me again. How could it be morning now? Do you think the spirit will bring news from the future again? Story 2. The man who wouldn't leave the emergency room door. There was a situation that caught my attention. Sometimes when I was looking out the window of my room, sometimes when I was looking down from the cafeteria window, I would see a man always waiting in front of the emergency room door. I always wondered why he always waited at the same spot. Sometimes he would wait at the same spot at the same time, and sometimes he would stare at the door from the opposite side of the road. At first, I thought he might have a relative inside, but then it became clear that this was impossible. There had to be another reason why he stared at the emergency room door at almost the same spot at the same time every day. Some people said he was a lunatic, others that he was harmless and understanding. My friend Max went up to him one day and asked out of curiosity why he was there at the same place at the same time every day. The white-haired old man told Max that about 2 months ago, a 33-year-old man had fallen into a coma in this hospital and died. The 33-year-old man who died was important to old William, and he was very sad to lose him. Yes, the name of the old man who was at the emergency room door every day was William. He was wearing normal clothes, not new but not old, with long white hair and a white beard with a few strands of black in between. One day, I went out to buy cigarettes at the gas station just across the street from the hospital. William was waiting at the same spot, but this time it was different. William was staring at me through the emergency room door. I hesitated for a moment, thinking he was going to say something, so I looked at him, but he didn't say anything. We just stared at each other for a few seconds, but I realized that he was looking at me strangely angry, or rather I felt it. I waited, but he didn't say anything, so I crossed the road as if nothing was wrong and entered the gas station's convenience store. After buying my groceries, I stopped at the traffic lights at the entrance of the gas station to cross the road. It was around 6 o'clock in the evening. When I turned my head to the sky, I saw that dark clouds were starting to cover the sky as the day was ending. When I tilted my head to check if the green light for pedestrians was on, I realized that William was across the road, on the hospital side. He was looking at me with the same look. This time I decided to ignore those strange looks and cross the road as soon as the light turned green. The light turned on and I started walking across the road. Just as I was passing by William, he suddenly put his hand on my arm. After a few seconds, a short and harsh sentence came out of William's mouth from behind his flaming eyes. "You did it." "What did I do? What do you want from me?" was all I could say. I was hurting so much. I pulled my arm hard. I headed towards the hospital without even looking back. Just as I reached the emergency room door, he called out, running behind me, "Dr. Robert Geller, I'm telling you, stay where you are." I was afraid he was going to hurt me, but I also wanted to know what I was doing. "I'm listening to you, William," I replied, in a stern voice and trying to give him a stern look, without showing that I was scared. "What have I done? You can't treat me like this," I said again, looking into my eyes. My best friend entrusted me with her son after she died, and he had to be treated in this hospital for a while after an accident. They told me that you were taking care of him, but the nurses informed me that you never took proper care of him during his treatment. You are solely responsible for that 33-year-old young man going into a coma and losing his life. You will pay for this. He threatened me. I had learned from Max that he had been living an illegal life in his old life. He could have hurt me at any time. I remembered who the patient was, but I had done everything I could for that boy. It was impossible for him to survive. We wanted him to succeed so much, but he couldn't. How could I be responsible for that? "I will wait for you outside the hospital and we will settle accounts," William told me. At that moment, the cold white door of the morgue came before my eyes. What was I going to do now? Surely he wanted to hurt me. I had to do something and call the police immediately. I told the hospital security that they should call the police. A short time later, sirens blared and 3 squad cars arrived at the hospital. William was not there when I told them what happened to me. They said they searched around the hospital, but they couldn't see him. What if he comes back later? What if he catches me alone in my house and tries to harm me? I could not leave the hospital without getting answers to these questions, without finding a solution. After that day, I stayed in the hospital's guest room for a few days. I couldn't take a step outside. I didn't want to meet William again, who was looking at me with vengeful eyes. If it was really you, would you blame me? Is it the fault of us doctors trying to save a human being? Story 3. The Whispering Nurse in the Morgue. It was one of the nights I was on call. While sipping my coffee in my room, I was listening to the complaints of the patients who came to the emergency room late at night. My shift would end around 8 in the morning, and then I had to get some sleep and attend my son's school ceremony in the afternoon. Everything was going as usual. But these were the most problematic times for me, because silence was not good for me and paranormal events usually happened to me. It was around 4 o'clock at night. I had to go down to the morgue and check some things to find out why the man who had died in the morning had died. The morgue is a cold place when you hear about it, but for us doctors, it's customary. My room was at the end of the corridor on my floor. The elevator was right in the middle of the corridor next to the stairs. After sipping my last cup of coffee, I started walking towards the elevator with a few documents I had to take. I don't know if it was the coldness of the hospital or fatigue, but a chill ran down my spine. All the hairs on my arm could be seen one by one. I got into the elevator and started moving towards the -2 floor. Everything was normal. I had reached the floor where the morgue was located. I was in the spirit world. I could feel it. That was the only way I could explain this silence. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I involuntarily looked first to the right, then to the left, and then to the right again to check the dark corridor. That chill inside me hadn't gone away yet. On the contrary, it had increased. Even though I had been working in a hospital for years, I couldn't get used to it. I started moving towards the door of the morgue. The creaking sound echoed throughout the corridor as I opened the large morgue door, which was a mixture of blue and ice. The dead had woken up. It was just me, dim light, and silence. The body I had to examine was in a large drawer in the corner. I started walking towards it with fear, but with a sense of duty. The time had finally come to face it. I opened the drawer, and the body was there. I knew what I had to do, but I could hardly find the courage even though I had done it 1,000 times. As I was doing my duty, a whisper came from behind. Was it William or that spirit that had cornered me in the cafeteria? I prayed in my heart that it wasn't them. William could not enter the hospital. The police and security were working together. The hospital didn't have a secret entrance. If it did, I would know about it. But that nurse's spirit, luckily no one was there. A few minutes later, I heard the same sound again and again. The walls of the morgue started to close in on me. Even through the metal morgue drawer, I could see how big my eyes had gotten with fear. I had never seen myself like this. "Who is there?" I called out desperately. The voice suddenly stopped. I had to check, otherwise I would not be able to do my duty. With slow and soft steps, I went in the direction of the sound. There was a stretcher at the end of the morgue drawers. The stretcher was covered with a curtain. The sound was coming from behind that curtain. I approached the curtain, and at first I just put my ear to the curtain and tried to hear something. Actually, I could have lifted the curtain and looked at the stretcher, but I didn't dare. Someone was talking inside in a whisper. With a sudden decision, I quickly pulled the curtain all the way. Inside was Emmy, a young nurse who had just started working a week ago. "What are you doing here, Emmy?" I said in a shaky voice. "Because of me. Everything happened because of me. She is lying here because of me." Emmy felt that she had lost a patient and it was her fault. In the early days of the profession, this was something that could happen, but no matter how much I explained it, Emmy was looking for the blame. "So why are you here behind the curtain?" I asked Emmy. "I can't leave her alone. I can't leave her alone," she kept saying. It wasn't right for her to be there like that and stay there in the darkest hour of the night. I immediately called security and asked for help. A short time later, a doctor came to the morgue in the basement with security. Emmy was going through a trauma, and it could have been the end before it all started for her. As he left, he looked back. We locked eyes, and she said to me, "Why are you turning me over to security? Why won't you help me? Dr. Geller, why don't you help me?" And he yelled at me. There was anger and hatred in his eyes. "You can't leave me alone. If you don't help me, I will come for you again, Dr. Robert Geller." I hadn't actually done anything bad, but it ended badly for me again. I guess it was always going to be like this. I wanted to help him, but it ended in frustration for me again. My night shift ended a little earlier, around 7:30 in the morning. Dr. Max informed me that they had given Emmy a sedative and that she was doing better now. But I was never safe anymore with William outside, Emmy inside, and the dark nurse who haunted me in my dreams. And I don't know what else could happen to me in the future. What was I doing wrong? Do you have any thoughts on this? Shouldn't Dr. Robert Geller be a good doctor? Would all the negative events have left me then? If you think so, you can offer me a solution. And you can decide what Dr. Robert Geller should do next. I'm sure he'll try, and we'll see how it turns out.